So, like going back to the original question, we know that the migration are going to be here and they will cover most of the cases, but not all of them. But I'm referring more to the like mentality of some companies, because from talking with my colleagues, I know that some companies have problem to allocate time to going for standalone components, let alone like going for changes for all of the HTML files that they have to migrate to the new syntax. And like what I really want to ask you guys is what advices you will have for these kind of companies, which are majority, I would say. There are not a lot of perfect like projects well maintained and driven by developers that know everything that they are doing and they are prepared for anything. What would you recommend them to do to find themselves around so many options? Because currently we don't have that many options in Angular, but going forward we'll have much more.
Don't do it. Don't do it until there's a business case. Your ngIf and ng4s aren't going anywhere right now. Just like with standalone, modules aren't going anywhere. Feel free to start writing new code in it if you want, but until there's a business case for it, I would absolutely not try and justify going back to rewrite your components in the new control flow syntax.
Okay.
It's not worth it, right? There's no point in your application being perfectly new control flow syntax if your company is not around because you spent too much time doing it versus building the product or fixing the problems your issues have, your users have. So, Angular doesn't break our applications. They're very good with backwards compatibility. They're not going to deprecate something and remove it in the next minor. You're fine. Just keep going. Build the stuff that provides value to your business. Would be my answer.
And what would happen, like, let's say at some point, like the zone has to go, like the directives maybe also. And if, let's say that we are at Angular 2021, whatever, 22, and these companies will face a moment of refactor or be on or stay on the deprecated version. What to do in these cases?
Well,
I
go ahead. I have some opinions on that.
I work at a company like that, you know. It's just I have been lucky, and we have started a project from scratch several months ago. So we are in an Angular V15, and this happens because lots of our projects are on version 11 or 12 right now, and the more new versions come out, the harder it becomes to eventually migrate. So lots of businesses, and if we're talking about building your own product and building an outsourced thing, so if it's an outsourced thing, lots of clients do not care about versions until it hits them and they start saying, oh, we are on a very old thing, let's just throw this away. And mind you, it might be a perfectly well maintained project just on an older version of the framework. But let's just throw it away, let's do a rewrite, and actually lose more money. I have seen cases like that where people would always say, oh, we don't have time to upgrade or whatever, and then at some point they will say, oh, our application is old and it has performance issues, or developers do not like working on it. Because if you have worked on, let's say, future Angular 19, and it has all this cool stuff, and let's assume it all goes very well and it's great, but now you have this legacy application that has Angular 12 or 11, it would be super hard for even the business itself to convince people if they have good experts. It's a valid problem. Whenever we got legacy projects, and we had to do interviews with people, we wanted to hire people to work on them. Lots of people will try to say, oh, what version are you using? Oh, no, I don't like that. I don't know if I want to work with an older technology, because they feel that, monetary reasons aside, people want to grow. And when they see their framework accelerating to the future like this, but they are stuck with an older version, and there are huge different setups of projects. Like the previous one we did, we never managed to upgrade to Angular 13 because it was always postponed, because it was always we had more like burning things to do, and it used web components, it used the Angular elements. I firmly believe this is the only project in the world that does that.
Yeah.
But Angular elements are great, actually. We did have a very valid business case for using them, but they also created lots of overhead. It had a very different structure compared to a single page app or an SSR application. It was really different. And upgrading it brought on some really new challenges, right? And what we really wanted was to say, guys, can you give us like 8 days so we can sit down and no one is writing code in parallel, and we just upgrade it at least to version 13? Nope, that was not possible. But they were okay if you can find some spare time and do it like iteratively. I don't know how they imagined that, but yeah.
Yeah. So
It wasn't really possible. So what my advice would be to businesses like that is to try to start earlier. I don't know. It's not necessary to jump. At least consider that if you are on, say, version N, and version N minus 2 is deprecated, maybe at least at that point upgrade to N plus 1, something like that.
yeah,
Because
yeah, absolutely. I think so. I completely agree with you, and maybe I'll provide a little bit of clarity to my answer based on what you just said. When I said don't do it until there's a business case, that business case needs to be determined by everybody, right? So what your answer there was that, oh, some people don't see the value in it. Well, then some people aren't valuing the business case, right? So that the decision to upgrade needs to be made by the decision to make a change so that you can leverage something new, whether that be upgrading it to a new version or slowly moving over to standalone components so you can upgrade to the new one or whatever it might be. That's not just a developer decision, right? The the decision makers, whether they be the financial decision makers, the CFOs, or the engineering managers, or whatever it might be, they also need to see the business case in it, right? So my answer was kind of coming at it from us as devs, but also the other people in the organization that need to get on board with it, right? So like what you're saying, like it sounds like your business had like a legitimate business use case, like a reason to upgrade. It's just some people decided that there wasn't one, right? That's different than there not being one in general. So I think I don't know, and this is a problem that I have no idea how to solve. I know it's an issue in a lot of organizations. How do you convince the decision makers to do something that they don't see provides direct value, right?
Yeah.
Don't know what the answer is. I think that's a problem that most organizations face, right? When a business person's in charge of making a decision. But that doesn't change the fact that upgrading has a valid business case, right? It's just how do we educate the non-developers in that so that we can go and upgrade. So just a little bit of clarity of my answer, because like I completely agree with you, and you had a valid case in my eyes. It's just some people didn't see that until it was too late.
Yeah.
Right.
I totally get that. I have argued a lot of cases like that because, well, the project that I mentioned, we started it in 2018,